You win some, you lose some. So one of the things about art journaling is that occasionally things are going to go wrong. And before you throw your page into the bin, just think about how many different ways there could be that you could salvage the page and actually make it work. So this is one of those times where I share with you what went wrong when I was making an art journal page. So today I'm working in my mini circle art journal, and I wanted to create an art journal page that was all kind of bright colours and fairly summery, just to brighten up these dull days that we're in at the moment. So I've dusted off my Tim Holtz Distress crayons, and the first one I'm using, as you can see, is the Picked Raspberry. All I'm doing is just laying down some of the colour and then blending it out with my finger onto the page. I'm not activating it with any water, I'm just rubbing it into the fibres of the page. I'm just going to use 2 or 3 different colours today, and all I'm going to do is just repeat the same process, so just adding the colour onto the page and then blending it and smudging it into the page with my finger. And this next colour is the mustard seed. And the next lovely greeny yellowy colour is the Twisted Citron. So now that I have my flash of colour across my page, I just wanted to kind of soften it a little bit and break up that block of colour by bringing out my bubble stencil from Dilutions and a baby wipe, and then just lightly removing some of that colour, activating it and removing it with a baby wipe through the stencil. And of course it is now wet, so I will have to just give it a gentle dry with my heat gun before moving on to the next stage. And of course this also does help to set the distress crayons on the page also. Next up, it's the watercolour butterflies from the Tim Holtz and Stampers Anonymous stamp set, and I'm going to use some Archival inks and just stamp a couple of those butterfly designs. Now these are the watercolour butterflies, which means that they're not quite as crisp and not quite as exact in the illustrations as they could be, because they're designed to give you like a watercolour-y effect. And if you missed it, the ink I'm using is the Rose Madder Pink. So for the next butterfly I decided to go a little bit darker, so this is the Magenta Hue Archival ink, again from Ranger. I'm just going to do the same thing, just to stamp a couple of those butterflies on the page. And of course, just to make sure that the archival ink is completely dry, I'm just going to give it a gentle heat with my heat gun before moving on to the next step. So for my focal point for this page, I'm using the Miss Austen stamp from indigoblue.com, and I love this stamp. It's a beautiful collection of illustrations all clumped together into a really nice focal point, and it's a decent size as well, measuring around about, let me see, about 12 centimeters, which puts it about 5 inches. And I'm going to use the Sepia Archival Ink, again from Ranger, to stamp this focal image onto my page. So my hope here was that the ink is dark enough for it not to be lost with that pink background. Because I am stamping onto textured watercolour, I am applying quite a bit of pressure onto the stamp. Okay, so what to do in a situation like this? I don't like it, so the only thing that I can do at this stage is try and either redo it or cover it. So if I try and overstamp it again, it's going to be a complete mess because I'll never line it up. And if I try and cover it by stamping it onto paper and sticking it over, then you won't get the detail. So the best thing to do in a situation like this is just to work around it for a second or two. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and include some more of that sepia colour with some more butterflies around the page, helping to blend the colour into the page. So what this does, it gives you breathing room time. It allows you to be able to think about the different options that you have to be able to tackle that problem. Now, because I've already heat set those distress crayons, I can't bring a baby wipe in and try and remove the colour from behind it to make that brown pop anymore. So the only option that I've got at the moment is really to bring some gesso in and perhaps paint over it, try and obliterate it a little bit, blend the gesso into the page to create a paler background, and then try and restamp over the top. So before I actually decide to do that, I'm going to just play around with adding a little bit more of that green colour into the background. So out comes the bubble stencil again, and I've grabbed my leaf green archival ink, and I'm just going to add some more of those bubble kind of effects into the background before I bring out the gesso. So looking at the page now, I'm convinced now that that Miss Austen stamp image does look a little bit lost. So I am going to try and push that now back into the background. It's all dry, so the only way to do that is to bring out some white gesso and to go over the stamped image with a couple of coats of the white gesso. Now I end up putting around about 3 coats of the gesso over the top to obliterate it enough for me to be able to stamp over the top of it again. But what I wanted to do is just blend the gesso into the page so it wasn't such a stark transition from the white into the paper. So you'll see me adding the paint around the image and just trying to blend the gesso into the background of the page so it's not so obvious. So now I have a white spot on the page, I can re-ink my stamp up and apply that stamp over the white area with the knowledge that it's not going to have all that colour showing through, and hopefully it will blend better into the page. And again, applying quite a lot of pressure just to make sure that it is actually going to go onto that textured watercolour and now gessoed section of the paper. And I think that works a lot better. I'm still not 100% happy with it, but that's okay. So, kind of disaster averted, time to move on. So I'm now going to add my page title by using these Tim Holtz small talk stickers, and I've just chosen the two words explore and possibility. And because the only area on this page that has any black is the text on those two words, I didn't want to add a black border around the two word blocks. So I've brought out my Coloursoft pencils from Derwent, and I'm just going to use a couple of shades of pink or lilac to go around those word blocks just to make them pop a little bit more, which is more in keeping with the page colours than adding black. So I'm pretty much happy now with the way this page has turned out. I'm not 100% happy with it, but then again, it's okay not to be. You don't have to love and like every single page that you create in your journey. So I've signed it and dated it, and then I'm just going to call this page done. So as you can see, even though the page doesn't go according to plan, there are ways in which you can salvage it so it's not a complete loss. So I hope you did enjoy that. If you did, please remember to give it a thumbs up, share the video with all your friends, and if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel already, you can do so by clicking the button at the end of the video. That's all from me for now. I'll be back again real soon. Bye for now.